Welcome to episode 123 of the Whatnauts Review Show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV series, anime, manga, comic book, audio, drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by Kyle Springer.
Good morning. How's it going?
Morning, Kyle.
We just had a big old breakfast burrito, and I'm kind of jealous.
It's very good, and it was cheap. And now I've got my first PSL of the season.
There you go.
Fall is here.
Pumpkin spice latte.
Mm.
Good stuff. I'm not a big pumpkin flavor fan. I feel like I've had a good amount of pumpkin pie to know that I'm okay with pumpkin pie. But like, once you start mixing it in with the coffees and all sorts of stuff, I'm just like, I don't know.
I dig it. I think it's unfortunate that it's become this like derisive meme, whereas it's pretty good. And even if one pumpkin product isn't for you, it's for somebody.
Sure.
Like there's 50 different pumpkin products, not so that one person can have all 50. It's so that like 10 different people can have 5. Like, there's a pumpkin for everyone. You'll find your pumpkin.
Yeah. Indeed. My week has been okay. Yesterday, it was one of those weird days where I slept really, really good. And then I woke up expecting to be like, oh, I feel well rested. I'm ready to take on the day. But I was more so sad that I wasn't still sleeping because it was such good sleep, and I was just like, no, like, take me back, please.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, it was a good day. But we are not here to talk about pumpkins. So
no.
I suspect that the name pumpkin could maybe one day be the name of a Bond woman, Bond girl.
It is time to start calling them Bond women.
Bond women, yeah. Yeah. So we are here to talk about James Bond.
We are. This is our first episode of our Shame-tember series, where each of us is, we listed some movies that we should have seen by this point in our lives, but we haven't.
On our list
and
of
for
shames.
me, this was my pitch. I love James Bond as a general entity. I love the Daniel Craig movies. I had never seen the one where it all started, Sean Connery in Dr. No.
Yeah. Dr. No, indeed. That is what we are here to talk about this week, and I am excited.
Yeah.
Because I've seen this one, I feel like a couple times. I know at least twice. In full, and then my dad was also a big James Bond fan, so whenever they were on TV or something, he would be like, oh, let's watch Thunderball or something, let's watch
the boring one.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I've been familiar with this movie for a long time. I think I've pitched this once or twice on the show. I don't know if it was this show or if it was to Paul on the Whatnauts podcast way back in the day.
It's probably to Paul, because if you pitched this, I probably would have picked it.
You were like, no, to Dr. No. No.
I wouldn't, no.
But, so I think we mentioned this on the Captain's Log, which we recorded a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but somewhere along the line, I got it mixed up, and I thought that this was the movie in which they had the famous line, do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. And I guess for the past, 2 years or something, I'm like, oh yeah, that's in Dr. No. The famous line from Dr. No. That one. And
because
apparently
there's
it's not
no
in
it.
Right,
You
yes.
presume he
Yes.
starts all of his sentences with no. He's a terrible improviser.
Right? Yeah. It's not yes and, it's no, but.
We're going to demote this guy to the third city.
well, no, but I mean.
He's not
good.
welcome in our brigade.
Right. So like yeah, because we in the kind of a secondary reason for watching this, I know, is that the new James Bond film, No Time to Die, is coming soon. Eventually, it's been delayed a number of times thanks to COVID-19. But there is some speculation that it is kind of pulling some things from Dr. No. So we might get more into some speculation on that down the road once we get into spoilers and stuff like that. But Melissa, this was your first time watching it.
Yeah, this was my first time seeing a full Sean Connery of any kind. This is my history with James Bond. My dad wasn't a Bond guy. He's a Western guy. Mm-hmm. He's a different class of dad.
Sure.
So I just seen like fragments of these on TV growing up. Like I'd seen Austin Powers. Like I knew the parody stuff about James Bond.
Sure.
And a couple years ago, I started listening to this podcast called James Bonding because it was co-hosted by a comedian and improviser who I really loved. It's like, oh, for him, I'll listen to this show. And it was really fun. I was working like a pretty dull office job at that point, as opposed to the exciting office job I have now. And just to listen to like these 2-hour like movie recaps really filled up my day. It was really entertaining. Yeah. So I got really into James Bond secondhand through osmosis.
Okay.
And like that podcast ran through all the movies. Then it ran through all the movies again. Then I found another podcast called Spectre, special podcast exclusively for comedy, talking, revenge, and extortion.
Okay.
And then I've listened to that one. I watched all the Daniel Craig movies. I've seen 2 of the Roger Moores. I've seen A View to a Kill and Moonraker. I was a guest star on the Spectre episode talking about Moonraker. Mm-hmm. I recorded that like almost exactly a year ago.
Oh, wow.
So I guess mid-September is the time for Bond podcasting.
There you go.
But yeah, I really like James Bond through the couple films I saw and through all this secondhand knowledge. And I felt like I knew the films better than I did because I was also under the impression that it was Dr. No that expected him to die. Even though I've heard 3 in-depth recaps of Dr. No, my brain still had that stuck in there from just years of having all these Bond parodies and references and homages kind of smushed together in other pieces of pop culture.
Yeah.
Like a lot of this big iconic stuff you do kind of place on the first movie, and a lot of it isn't there. Q isn't in this. This doesn't have the traditional Bond opening. It doesn't have a Bond theme. It just has like the theme. It doesn't have a separate song beyond that. Shirley Bassey's not here yet.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure because of that stuff that they, it doesn't have certain things that's like, oh, this is James Bond. If you have a James Bond movie, you have to have these certain things. But yeah, it is also the start. Like you start to see how that stuff can come in to play once you start learning more about the character and things like that. But yeah, so I'm assuming you ended up liking this because I feel like it's a pretty likable film.
You're right. I did. This was a good time. I was expecting this movie from 1962 to feel like dull or boring or plotting, but no, I was really entertained the entire time.
Yeah. It's not like your standard action film that you would know today. It is slower in comparison to that stuff. But yeah, there's some exciting moments. There's some tense moments that I think just really draw you in. And since this is the first James Bond film, just like seeing how he interacts with all of these characters and stuff is interesting to watch. Yeah, and then it's it's Sean Connery when he's super young, so he's also a delight to watch.
Yeah, I get it. Like, he's not my type of fella. If you ask me to name the most handsome James Bond, I might say it's Pierce Brosnan, who's much softer and lovelier. But yeah, I get the sex appeal of a Sean Connery. He's a really commanding presence to watch. I was reading something in the trivia about one of the reasons why he was cast was that he is this huge man. Like, he's very tall, he's very broad-shouldered, but he moves very gracefully. Like, he kind of has this cat-like, espionage nimbleness if he's sneaking around somewhere. He can pull that out if he needs to.
Okay.
He's a good physical performer.
Indeed. Yeah, so let's get into a bit of a synopsis for this film. Let's see here.
Okay.
Dr. No. So you'll have to help me out with this one. But it starts out with a murder most foul.
Yes.
It's looking like it's taking place in Jamaica or some
MI6
location.
It is Jamaica. The British intelligence service has like a secret office there. They're just doing a routine check-in call with their operative, and the line goes dead. Like, they can tell the line still works, so it's not a technical problem. They're like, we think something just happened to this lady in the middle of when we were talking.
Yeah.
So, Bond, you got to go down there and find out what happened.
Yeah. So he's sent down to investigate, and as he's kind of investigating, he's starting to uncover, I guess, like a sinister plot to steal a missile or like explode a missile in mid-air. That wasn't entirely clear to me, but yeah, like he's starting to get mixed up with the locals and some of their superstitions and things like strange things that are happening on a certain island nearby.
Yeah, he finds out that Dr. No's plot is to topple the rockets launched by NASA at Cape Canaveral. Like, I think he's going to take control over the rockets and redirect them.
Yeah. So that's a pretty basic plot. Like, it's not a complicated movie like you would think for like a spy espionage film. It's very straightforward.
It is.
Do you have like non-spoilery stuff that you might want to add to that before we move on?
He goes to this island. He's investigating. There's 3 different Bond girls in this one. Well, one's back in England in like the establishing information. He's got 2 ladies when he gets to Jamaica. He's got some cool sidekicks. Felix Leiter's in this. And there's some really rad lairs.
Yeah, good old-fashioned villain lairs.
This is a movie with a straightforward story, so it doesn't have layers, but it has layers.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's move on to our housekeeping then, and then we can dive into the movie. If you guys did not know, we have multiple podcasts here at the Whatnauts. You guys can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Just type in The Whatnauts and all of our shows will pop up right there. I mentioned the Captain's Log. You guys should go check that one out. We also do a video game podcast called Crossplay, which is a lot of fun as well. So if that's your thing, we have that for you guys to check out too. But if you like what we do, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. We do have a bunch of exclusive content at our $3 tier. So if you guys want to check that stuff out, you can as well. We've covered things from the X-Files to Batman Beyond, all sorts of things. We've had game nights where we played we've done like personality tests, and we played what's that game, MASH.
We did play MASH.
Yeah, it was fun. We have all sorts of stuff up on our exclusive content tier, so you guys should go check that stuff out too. But last but not least, a big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier. So thank you, Sam, for helping us out, keeping the mics on. We appreciate it. We love you lots. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay. Let's see. I guess I need to do the spoiler graphic. Jazz hands. There we go. Okay. James Bond, Doctor No, dentist yes. Right?
Chiropractor maybe.
So you told me an interesting fact about this film, that in bringing this film, I think to China, it was
to Japan.
They had to translate the name, and it translated to something really funny.
We don't want any doctors.
Yeah.
I'd heard this for years, and then I wasn't sure if it was just like a joke, but it is on the IMDb trivia page, and if you can't trust that,
that's so funny.
I don't know who to trust.
Yeah, it's like instead of having someone whose name is No and just being Dr. No, it was, we would not like any doctors, please.
None.
Thank you, though.
None.
No, thank you. Good stuff. Yeah, so I think we open up with this film with a poker match.
Yeah.
Which I think I saw you tweeting about that, and once I saw it, I was like, this is probably what she was tweeting about.
No, it was about something else. It was about an episode of The Tick, but it also counts here. This is one of my other biggest weaknesses as a movie buff. I have no idea how poker is played. And every movie presumes that you do. There's never a movie that at any point explains poker,
right,
offers you poker exposition. So constantly, for 30 years, I've had people like showing poker hands in movies, and I think I can tell when it's very, very good. But if it's just regular good or bad or middling, I cannot tell. I don't know what they mean.
Yeah, which is an interesting one to me, because I think poker and just like casinos in general are kind of a recurring theme in Bond movies, right? It immediately starts off the film having it a sense of class and money and like high rollers, high stakes, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, right away we have the like inherent sexual tension between James Bond I guess he's not shown immediately, but once he does come on screen, there's just that immediate sexual tension between him and the woman that he's playing poker with, who's also kind of doing really well at the table.
Her name's Sylvia Trench. She's pretty cool. And she appears briefly in the beginning of the next movie, From Russia with Love. She's the only love interest who like shows up more than once in this series, until we get to the Daniels, which have more of a continuity to them.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So like it's one of those things where just right off the bat you have this like high class, just like sexual tension. Like these are the first things you learn about James Bond, and to be honest, I think this is a great start to the film to explain what and who James Bond is. Like when you look at the books, when you look back at the movies or stuff like that, if you can distill James Bond down into some like basic things, I think this is kind of it. Like, this is such a strong, like, this is James Bond. Bam, yep. Here we go.
Yeah, it really sets you up with, and he's a very simple character to begin with. Like, a lot of when you think about Bond, you think about all these accessories to him and all the things he does and he has. You're not thinking about his personality. I don't know if there's much to say about Bond's personality. It's just like, like he's a real ladies' man and he drives a cool car.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's he's eventually sent to Jamaica to investigate this stuff. He's sent there by M, who is in charge of MI6.
Yeah. I think it might not be called MI6 officially yet in this movie, but that is what it is.
Yeah. That's what we know them as. Yeah. So how do you feel about this setting? Because I just the setting of Jamaica on this island, stuff like that. Because Bond goes all sorts of places. We see him like in casinos, like we mentioned. We see him on tropical islands. We see him on like military industrial structures, like out in the middle of nowhere in the oceans, or like just all like these weird locations. But to me, something like Jamaica is so grounded to me. I don't know if you feel the same way, but like I don't know if I can think of, at least off the top of my head, another James Bond film where it's like, oh, I could go there, right? But it's like,
you're right,
Jamaica. I can go to that that bar and have some fun there,
You're right. Jamaica feels attainable. Like it's a excellent vacation spot, but it isn't quite in that same level of like classy international jet setter as it would be if he was going to like Paris or Prague or somewhere. And like people who have been to Jamaica. Like everybody's aunt has like taken a cruise to Jamaica. Your aunt probably isn't spent a glamorous weekend in Prague. Yeah, like besides being geographically closer to us as American audience members, you're right. It feels like an attainable spot, and it feels like a place for like a chill vacation. Like you can relax in Jamaica. That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
And that vibe does translate to this movie. This movie takes place, I mean, it's initially it's set in London. I think that's where Bond is playing poker with Sylvia Trench. You see him around the MI6 offices. He's getting ready to leave. So it starts there, but then the movie entirely takes place in Jamaica after that. Like it doesn't travel around. And that is why so the James Bond movies are based off the series of novels by the author Ian Fleming.
Correct.
And Dr. No is not the first novel. I think Dr. No is a couple novels in, but they picked Dr. No to be the first movie because it was all set in one place.
Interesting.
Like, oh, yeah, this is easiest for us to make a movie out of. Another interesting thing we get out of this. Oh, and Ian Fleming himself lived in Jamaica. He had an estate in Jamaica. The name of that estate, Goldeneye.
Huh.
Yeah, so a lot of the Bond movies, a lot of the Bond movies, even if the plot isn't very similar to one of the books, the names are mostly taken from the books. But Goldeneye is taken from the name of Ian Fleming's estate. But so I think the first novel published might have been from Russia with Love. I'm not entirely sure, but. So there's this bit at the beginning of the movie where he's talking to M, and and M's like, "You're not going to take your Beretta pistol out there, are you?" And Bond's like, "Yeah, it works fine." And then M's like, "No, we're going to have to give you your Walther PPK. Here, Major Boothroyd, come on in. Tell Bond about the gun." So this is based on, in the books, Fleming had written him with a Beretta, and this man named Boothroyd wrote to him like, no, I see what you're trying to go for here. Bond needs this type of gun. You have to give him the Walther PPK. So then Ian Fleming changed the novels for this gun.
That's amazing.
Gun dork just wrote to him and convinced him hard enough. Like, no, you got to go with this brand. You got to go with this model. So that's why there's that little character there in the beginning in the kind of role that would eventually be filled by Q. We have that Major Boothroyd guy named after this guy who wrote to Ian Fleming about gun details.
Awesome. That's great.
Right? I always thought that was an interesting bit of background trivia and how these books and these movies got started.
The Walter PPK is like such an iconic gun now. Like, that is James Bond's gun.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would have known that had some little story in the back there. I just thought that, it was like, hey, let's set you up with the cool stuff, and here's the cool stuff, right? And it just went on from there. But like that's I think really the only gadget that he gets, if you can kind of count that as a gadget. Like, again, that's something we don't really see in this Bond film, and we don't get the, like, here's a pen that's really a miniature rocket, right? Or, like, here's a watch that's a laser, or something like that.
Yeah, it's not. There's a lot of things that are here in this first movie. There's there's Moneypenny, Felix Leiter is in this. He's a recurring character who's in like every couple movies as just an American CIA agent who Bond cooperates with. It's like Felix is here from the beginning. The gun barrel sequence is here from the beginning. They have the Bond orchestral theme. But there's other things that are missing, like Q, the Aston Martin, all of the gadgets.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's still building up its mythos. A lot of that comes in. So I kept watching a couple movies more. I watched From Russia with Love, and I watched Goldfinger. And a lot of that stuff is in Goldfinger. Goldfinger's where it starts to hit its stride. That's where you do have the Aston Martin with the oil slicks and the ejector seat. That's the one with Odd Jobs. You start getting the really specific weird henchmen. You know, the whole plot of that movie is that Goldfinger is going to break into Fort Knox and irradiate America's supply of gold. Like, he's not going to steal it or destroy it. He's not going to steal it or destroy it. He's just going to make it radioactive so that then no one can use it. And all the gold he already has becomes more valuable. Yeah. That's the one where the Bond girl is named Pussy Galore.
You're right. Yep. Yeah.
It becomes saturated at Goldfinger.
It like, on one hand, you could almost argue that that's like too much. They're like, oh, what are you doing? You've gone way overboard. But it works. Like, it's so entertaining and so fun to watch all this stuff. Like, oh, what gadgets is he gonna get?
Yeah,
who's gonna be the Bond girl? There's a certain, like, it's become almost a ceremony of just like finding out all of this information. Like, what gadgets will he have? Where is he going? Who's the Bond girl? Who's gonna sing the theme song? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the opening credit animation gonna look like? Like, there's this pageantry to it, and it works. Like, it's kind of cool.
You're right. That is what I think is so popular about these films, is that it is the same patterns. It's the same ingredients getting mixed up and reincorporated time after time. And, you know, maybe he shouldn't be sleeping with all of these women and then like most of them die and they've got these like really cheesy sexual names.
Yeah.
Like, it's outdated, but there's something about like just the pattern of it. Like, we've always got a couple, they operate like this, the narrative flows like this, but within that, it's like all the variation that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Who specifically is this woman going to be? Like, none of them feel that cookie cutter. Honey Rider's, she's the major girl in this movie. She's got a lot of very specific odd quirks to her. A lot of them do. Like, just looking at all these women and like who they are and how they might stand on their own, even if their interactions with Bond are all pretty much the same. Oh, like, there's you look forward to seeing it. It reminds me a lot of, like, I grew up watching a lot of theater, and theater is the same stories over and over again. But you watch
Right.
different people play the roles. You see like different direction styles. Maybe they play around with the sets and the costuming, give it a different tone. Yeah, set it in a different time period. Like just watching that same thing readapted and remolded. Like we took all the Legos apart. Now we're going to put the same things back together, and it's not going to be a skyscraper. This time it's a truck. Like stuff like that really works.
Yeah, and it's not like they can't improve on that stuff or change it. Like they can make him less of a womanizer and stuff
which
like
the
and
Daniel Craig movies have done. Like in the last movie, which is called Spectre, he meets Madeline Swan. He falls for Madeline Swan. He's still with her at the end of the movie, and she's a major character in No Time to Die. Like they're developed and. Oh, in Casino Royale, he falls for Vesper. He spends the next couple of movies getting over Vesper. Like, there's a little bit more sincerity and continuity and, like, character depth about the entire thing. Yeah.
The whole thing still works, and it still has all of those ingredients that we now know and love. But, yeah. Good stuff. So you mentioned this CIA agent. What was his name?
Felix Leiter.
I kept wanting to say like Lightyear or something, but that's
Felix Lightyear.
Yeah, Felix Lightyear. My son Buzz is over here. Yeah. So Bond is in Jamaica and he's investigating this murder, but I guess they also get information that the CIA is there investigating this rocket launch disruption that could be happening, and they're kind of wondering if this might be linked together somehow. I want to talk about that first scene ish when Bond gets to Jamaica and he's barely stepped off the plane and just immediately it's espionage central. Right, where everyone is a spy and looking at him from behind the newspaper and stuff like that, and he's so smooth about it. Like he
knows what to do.
He knows what to do, and I think the way this film is shot, it makes things. It like you notice them. You notice things are strange. Why is this shot lingering on this person, or why? But it's not so ridiculous that it's like, oh, this guy is just a terrible spy. Like, am I behind the
right?
paper
It's not like Shaggy walking past a painting with eyes, and the eyes are clearly looking at Shaggy, and Shaggy doesn't notice.
It's done pretty well. Like and he's so calm and collected, and he knows like, oh, okay, like I need to make sure that this driver that says he's here for me was actually sent by the people. So he's like, no, you get the bags. I have to go make a call real fast, and he finds out no, that's not sent by them, and so he, with that information, still gets in the car and it's like, now I at least know that this is a trap and I can play that to my advantage. It's kind of another card game for him, right? Like it's just like I don't know exactly how this will turn out, but I know I have a good hand here, so I can make it work in my favor, which I like how that whole scene plays out, where he's like he's just he's super smooth with the whole thing.
I saw a magazine feature years ago, and it was contemporary authors dressing up as their favorite literary characters of yesteryear. And there was this female author who was dressed like James Bond. I don't remember who this woman was, unfortunately. She might have been like a British author. That might have been part of it. I wasn't familiar with her. But she's just like James Bond, and it's got like a little blurb from her about why she chose to dress like him. And she's like, the allure of this man has always been that he is flawlessly competent.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, Like, that's always what's been so attractive about him. Even if you don't like the sex or the violence, or the fact that this is just sort of a silly popcorn movie that hits a reset button 25 times. Like, the Bond is always appealing in that he's not an extraordinary man by any means. He's not so much stronger or smarter than any other like just agent working anywhere, but like he always basically knows what to do. He always gets his way out of stuff. Like, you're right, he is smooth, not smooth as in suave, but just,
I mean,
he's a well-oiled.
too.
He is, but he's also this well-oiled professional machine. You're just watching a man be very good at his job for 2 hours.
Yeah. Just watching a guy be very good at his job. Yeah, it's I'm trying to think because yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. I don't have much more to add to that, to be like, well, it's actually more like this. But I liked that scene there. It's almost like, because when we first see him in the casino, you almost get the sense that he's a little bit cocksure, right? He's a little bit into himself. He knows he's hot shit. But then once the movie starts to get going and all that stuff, I think it kind of makes you rethink that slightly. Like, he's still sure of himself, but maybe not in a cocksure kind of way of just like, hey, I know how to handle myself in these situations.
Yeah, he's not arrogant. He's not foolhardy. For all of his pursuits, his drinking and his women, he makes it work with the job.
Right.
Like, he's never like off betting some woman when he's supposed to be working. Like, he makes it all work together. He gets the job done. He's not distracted. Like, he is an agent first, and he's so good at being an agent that he can be that confident, and he can have all of these other side pursuits along with the job he's doing and still exceed at all of them by the end of the day.
Most of these side pursuits are things that are related to the job. Yeah, he sleeps with the girl, but he sleeps with her because he knows that she has information or has some kind of connection to something that he needs to get. So it's a part of the job, and he's good at it. So yeah, on one hand, it's kind of a womanizer, but on the other hand, it's like, but you're good at your job. Damn it. Like,
yeah, and a lot of the women do seem to meet him at that level.
True.
I think it is rare that there have been like women who sleep with James Bond that are like, well, now you're going to come meet my parents, right? Like, they get what
James
he is
Bond,
about.
a man to bring back
time.
home to your parents.
What did you think about the Bond girl of this movie, Honey Rider?
Honey Rider. So we meet her a little bit later on in the film. She's at Crab Key Island, which is the island that Dr. No is on. She's an interesting one, I feel like, because she just gets caught up in this. Like,
she's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Right? She's just a lady.
Despite what we just said. Like these like side flings and sleeping with all these women is usually for the job, right? But this one is kind of an exception to that. However, they don't like really sleep together, but they do have like an immediate connection, and they're immediately like just like very intimate with one another. But yeah, she's just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they're kind of confused as to why she's there.
And she's got such a specific backstory where her father was like a marine biologist, ecologist. Like, he studies shells. He studies the natural properties of shells and I guess whatever organisms live in or attach themselves to shells. And he died. And like she grew up like just the two of them traveling around all the time. You know, she hadn't been in Jamaica too long before he died, and she doesn't know what to do. So she's like, I still just go out and collect shells.
Yeah.
And I can get these really good, big, shiny conch shells and like sell them to people for like $50.
Yeah.
Like she's just selling high-end souvenir shells. And like nobody's like there's radar and like all these people watching this little island where Dr. No is. But like she knows how to sneak around them, and also like she knows that they know, oh, that's just a lady collecting shells. Like it's more trouble than it's worth to like try and scare her off. Let her collect the shells. It's fine. So she's just there with a net bag full of shells and her bikini with her knife belt.
Yeah.
I like that she's always got a knife with her, probably just to cut
some rope or
fishing
some
lines
seaweed,
and rope and kelp and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, she's got her little knife. It's such a specific backstory that she's like, I collect shells for a living. I follow in my father's footsteps. I live a life of shells, which helps her feel, like she's charming. You like her. Like you're on her side the first time like she appears. And that helps this whole Bond girl thing feel like, it is a troublesome pattern, but it makes this particular character feel kind of fun. And you're like, oh, what else are these other women like? Because each of them has something to them. Pussy Galore is an amazing pilot. That's cool to see. Sylvia Trench is out there playing poker. I think it's very rare that you see an unaccompanied woman out at a poker table in a high-end casino.
Yeah. I think one thing to me that is interesting about Honey's character is she's very similar to the location, again, in the sense that we said, like,
she's location specific.
Well, she's location specific, but most of the Bond girl, like when I think of a Bond girl, I do think of these like high roller women. They're fashion models. They're, they're rich. They're famous in a certain way.
Yeah.
But here she is, just a nobody, right? Like,
yeah.
I just collect shells and sell them. This one makes me $50. Like, you know what I mean? And she just happens to be hot, and it's just like you're hot and you're here. So congratulations, you're a Bond.
Welcome. This is our starting point.
Yeah, like I expect Sylvia Trench to be more of the Bond girl in this film, based on what I know of these stuff. But yeah, like that, she's there at the start, and that's it. And the rest of the film is we get a second woman, and then Honey Rider is the third one, but I think the most prominent one of these three, because she then
and that is
caught up
typically
in things at the end there. So
that is typically how the pattern goes, is that there is like 2 or 3 Bond girls throughout the movie. There'll be like one pivotal one, and like the first one he sleeps with dies. In this case, it's not Sylvia Trench who he sleeps with back in London. It's Miss Tarot. It's that secretary who he sleeps with there in Jamaica who dies. Which again, like this is all recognizably troublesome, but it does like kind of excite some part of your brain that all these, like, there is a pattern, like things can be recognized and like played with and moved around, and you're expecting something.
Yeah.
And it's, it's about having your expectation diverted, or like, oh, I know what's coming up next. And dude,
right?
Like the pattern of the thing is thrilling. I can't explain why. I know it's technically bad. He sleeps with all these women and all these people die, but it's fun somehow.
And then it's also ridiculous for us to be like, Em, how have you not noticed that your secretaries are dying after they sleep with Bond?
Well, it's somebody else's secretary. I love going back to Moneypenny. The always there in the background sort of Bond girl. I love this Moneypenny. I love that she's super flirty with him. Like he's flirty back, but in like just like a cute, friendly way. Like she's like, oh, when will you take me out there? And he's like, well,
he's almost standoffish.
Moneypenny.
He's not, but he just barely like, I'll keep you around, but I'll keep you at arm's length.
Mhm.
kind of thing. And he's still flirting with her and teasing her and
Yeah.
stuff. So
And she keeps doing this in the next couple movies, and she's a delight. I love whenever
he's
this
great.
Money
Yeah,
Penny shows up.
he's great. Money Penny is a great character. But no, to go back to what you said about like the whole expectation thing and this pattern.
Yeah.
It is exciting to watch because I think for me as a comic book nerd, nowadays we have all of these comic book based movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And one of the things that's really exciting to me is when I can recognize a story of like, oh, they are adapting these comics, so I know what's about to happen. But then they changed like something suddenly, and I'm like, oh, I did not expect that. Oh my god, that was great. And just like to have my expectations played with like that is fun. Of like, oh, I think I know what's coming up next. I know who the villain is. It's not that person. Oh my god, who? Like, what in the world? It's so fun. So.
Yeah, like, oh, that's not the Mandarin. They're saving the real Mandarin for something else. There's a lot of genres that have these kind of trappings to them of like, we're aware of our tropes and our patterns. Like, think about slasher horror movies and the movie Scream, which is all about deconstructing within its own narrative. Like, you have a character in the horror movie that's seen a million horror movies and recognizes that he's in a horror movie and knows what's going to happen. Or like romantic comedies will do this. Like, oh, well, I just ran into this guy and I dropped all my papers on the floor, so I bet I'll be seeing him again. Like, the spy and espionage genre as a whole doesn't have patterns, but this one franchise is patterned to heck. It's like a color in the lines book.
It's patterned, like, but they're not self-aware.
It's paid by numbers.
They're not necessarily self-aware of like, oh, well, this is how spy movies go, so I bet this thing is gonna. It's more.
They're making it.
Go ahead.
No, like they're making it themselves. Like, I think it takes a couple movies for it to get this awareness of we know what we're doing and we know that we have these patterns and things. And it becomes aware of it, and it becomes aware of how it's like checking off the boxes. But they're doing it in a fun way. And like the audience likes the check boxiness of the Bond movies. Like, we want to see, like, we don't want to see him drive a car other than an Aston Martin. Like, we want the Martini, we want the Aston Martin, we want Q, like, we want all of that there. There's an appreciation of how patterned it is, like within the franchise itself and within the discussion around it. And like, when talking about all the Bond girls, the people I've listened to talk about Bond, it's not like, oh yeah, and then he goes to sleep with this lady. It's like a celebration of the individual women themselves. And like, this is what we really liked about this lady. And oh, we wish she could have done more. We wish she would have been more independent or like had a bigger part to play in the climax. Like, I think the movies and like the discussion around the movies is very honorable of the Bond girl.
Yeah. It has the patterns like we've been mentioning, but it's not fourth wall breaking. They're not whoa.
It's not
like, oh, I've seen the Bourne Identity. Like, I know what happens next.
It has had a handful of meta moments. So after Connery does 5 films, he wants out. They cast a different actor, an Australian model named George Lazenby, to play Bond in a movie called On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And in this movie, like, he meets a girl, he gets married, and by the end of the movie, like, she, like, Blofeld kills her. Like, the movie ends with he's married this woman and now she's dead in his arms. And then, like, George Lazenby didn't want to do another movie, and then it goes, like, back to Connery. So it's like this one-off kind of odd movie in the franchise. And then I think pretty soon after that, I don't, like, it's in the first... It's like the first time Connery's back, or like the first Moore movie after that. I forget which one. But I think like somebody goes to Tracy's grave to like visit her, and I think Blofeld's there attacking him again. I don't. Again, this is the trouble in that I've had all these movies described to me, but I've never
Don't know
seen
which
them, so I
one's
have
which,
trouble
yeah.
like really visualizing
I
them.
gotcha.
But there's a part where like one Bond actor says in like his first movie or his first movie back after a return, if it was Connery, says, this wouldn't have happened to the other guy.
That's good. Good.
Like it happens. It's in there every once in a while. And I think, have we talked about the proposed original ending for Skyfall?
I don't know. I've seen Skyfall.
Well, Skyfall has that Home Alone ending where they go back to James Bond's ancestral estate, and they're going to fend off Javier Bardem there.
Yeah.
It is kind of dilapidated. There's like one old, caretaker, groundskeeper there. Originally, he was going to go to Skyfall. And throughout the movie, it's, people are mentioning Skyfall to him, and he jolts, he bristles, he doesn't like it. He has bad associations with whatever Skyfall is. And then you find out, that's where he lived with his parents. His parents died. He has bad memories there. But originally, Skyfall was going to be the retirement home for spies, and they weren't going to be named, but he was going to go there, and there was going to be Sean Connery, Roger Moore,
funny.
Timothy Dalton, and Pierce Brosnan, and Lazenby if they could get him back, just as unnamed retired spies. So
That's funny.
Franchise is very aware of itself.
Okay.
And sometimes it plays this meta hand, but I think a lot of times they kind of stay away from it. But I'm very intrigued to find out what No Time to Die is going to, how much of a meta hand that might take as being the end of this current era with this current Bond.
So with before we start speculating on that stuff, let's start talking about Dr. No himself and his lair and his plan and Spectre and all of that stuff. Bond finally makes his way to Crab Key Island, which is where all the strange going-ons have been happening. That's where he meets Honey Rider, and they infiltrate this giant base, this giant, I don't even know what to call it, but yeah.
Lair.
Sure. And they're pretty much kidnapped. I wouldn't say immediately, but they're not exactly immediately. But once they're inside, they are kind of brought in as guests, as kidnapped guests.
And the first thing that happens to them is that, because they've been irradiated, they pass through some area of the lair where the staff members there suspect that they've become radioactive, they've been exposed. So before they're allowed deeper into the lair, they have to go through all these cleaning processes, and they go through this conveyor belt shower, and I'm like, oh, that's the one from Austin Powers.
Yeah.
And I saw Austin Powers before I'd seen any Bonds, and I've seen Austin Powers enough times. I've seen it a lot. I'm very familiar with that movie. Then now I can go back and watch this older Bond stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's what that's from. From Russia with Love has the character that I'm like, oh, that's Frau Farbissina. That's where we got her.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to take them through all these showers, and there's these people holding Geiger counters up to them and saying okay, they're down to this number. They're down to this number. Give them one more wash. Okay. Now they're safe. Now we can put them in our house pajamas and lead them to their rooms.
Our robes for hotel guests.
It's a spa practically. It's a spa, but it's more for removing radiation than it is to relax you.
Yeah. So they're in this lavish hotel room and immediately drink the coffee, which has been drugged. They're knocked out. They're separated. I guess they're not separated yet, but they go to dinner with Dr. No. This is kind of so the first time we see Dr. No, he's kind of creeping in their room while they're knocked out and they're drugged, and he's kind of creepily looking at James while he's sleeping, and you see these like metal prosthetic hands that can't move, and he's just like caressing the bed sheets, and it's weird. It's a weird scene.
He's
like, I don't know if they needed that scene, but I don't know.
I will say, I love this lair. This set looks amazing.
It's gorgeous.
There's this part midway through the movie where Dr. No, this movie spends you don't meet Dr. No until like 20 minutes from the end of the film. And there's one part earlier in the movie where you hear his voice where like one of his associates or lackeys or like some guy that he's blackmailing, like he brings him into a room and he's like talking to him over an intercom, like, you're gonna take this poisonous spider. It's just a regular tarantula, which are not poisonous. Like, take this spider and you're gonna drop it in Bond's hotel room and it'll sneak up on Bond and bite him, and then our problem will be gone. And that one room we're in for one scene is like really starkly interestingly designed, like bold architecture, like really dramatic lighting, and it's just and like there's nothing in the room. There's like a chair for that guy and a little table with the spider on it, and and like an intercom where Dr. No is yelling. I love the lair design. I love his assistants,
like bank vault style doors and stuff.
Yeah,
great. The like interstitial where they go in one of the bank vault doors is like a cave, but it's like lit in this like pink lighting. And I'm just like, oh, I love it. It's like the neon lights that I'm a sucker for.
I love an indoor cave. I love Bond lairs. Bond villain lairs are the place to go if you like indoor nature features.
Right? Yes, exactly.
Rock walls. Great.
Yeah.
They've got like Bond and Honey of these like cute adjoining rooms. Dr. No has all these assistants who are like very hospitable. It's like he hired them like from a hotel chain instead of finding them through underground criminal networks.
Right. He has like a hotel staff with him there. It's like, well, you're not actually a criminal, but you're working for one, you know.
I always love the villain who will bring you to his lair and he's like, I'm still a host. Like I owe you the civility of at least
dinners
providing
at 6 will leave mints on your pillows when you're not there.
Like, I am here to kill you for logistical reasons, not for personal reasons. Like, you're gonna have like a cushy bathrobe. The servants are here to make you like any room service you want.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if I'm gonna take you out, I'm gonna take you out in style.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so then they have dinner with Dr. No, and then this is kind of where things start to come to a climax. Like, this is the start of it, and Bond and Dr. No are kind of exchanging words there, and that's really when Honey Rider is like, okay, exit stage to the left. Like, we don't really
I want
need
out of this now
anymore. Yeah. She really has nothing to say. She's just like, look, that shell was $50. Can I at least get my $50?
Yeah, I want my shells.
Right. But it is this interesting kind of spar of the minds, because Dr. No positions himself as this genius scientist of like, I like the scientist in the West, you know, they rejected me. So I went to the scientist in the East and they rejected me because I was, you know, too smart for them. And the stuff that I wanted to do was too unethical or whatever, you know.
What I really like about Dr. No, he is a great villain. He's really, this guy is an interesting face. He's supposed to be playing a character who is half Chinese. I believe the actor is not, which is a problem.
Half Chinese, half German. And
yeah,
I guess he's not that mix.
German.
He's not that mix, and so yeah, I guess you could be like, in a modern lens looking back, they should have.
Right,
there's a number of things that they should have done, but I feel like he also looks the part, though.
Yeah, he's got such an interesting face in that he's very still. Like, he's got a really interesting, like, sculpted face, and he's so, like, still and flat about things, but in a really menacing way.
He's emotionless.
Yes.
I don't necessarily want to use the word robotic, but he has these prosthetic limbs that we don't learn much about, and he just has them, and it's this like he's been through a lot, and not in an empathetic way where it's like, oh, like I kind of feel for you, like you've been like it's like, okay, you've been through some strange things and you've come out a worse person for it, like, and it's kind of menacing and creepy the way that he's very matter of fact, he's very still, and it's just like, you're a weird guy, and like, that's kind of it, and you like, it's not necessarily something you can put your finger on, but it's just like, you're weird, dude.
He's a chilling fellow. Yeah, especially to go along with the kind of host villain is normally somebody who's more genial and very talkative, and oh, Mr. Bond, why won't you try some of my wine? So to have this kind of service from a man who's like, hello, Mr. Bond, welcome to my island. Like, it's a real disconnect there.
Yeah, it works. And so this is also where we get the first mention of Spectre. The Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion.
Thank you for looking up that entire thing.
That is a mouthful. It reminds me of Shield from Marvel Comics, which I might even be a reference to.
Probably,
there are a lot of these, like, terrible acronyms out there for, like, espionage and intelligence agencies. Before we were recording, you mentioned Uncle. Like, oh yeah, that's one too that has a weird name, but I was not expecting the introduction of Spectre in this thing, because
Spectre is here from the beginning.
So I don't know, like, I know some James Bond things. I don't know Spectre all that much.
Okay, Spectre is just sort of a general bad guys organization. Blofeld is a part of it. I haven't seen many Bond movies with Spectre because in one of the books where Spectre was introduced, I think Ian Fleming co-wrote that with somebody else, and that person had like a copyright claim on it.
Okay.
So that's why in the Daniel Craig movies, Spectre isn't there for a while, and they have this similar organization called Quantum. And then the fourth movie, they finally got those rights back. Like, oh, now we can do actual Spectre. Let's pretend like Quantum was a branch of Spectre the whole time. In fact, let's call the movie Spectre. We're so excited. We have Spectre again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I guess just like shadowy villain agency, but we don't get much about them in this film besides the fact that they are mentioned and they exist. And Dr. No is a part of them. But it is like this is one of the things I think in this film that I'm almost most interested in. Like I want the world building, and again we've kind of mentioned it with these patterns and stuff, but James Bond does like there is some continuity in there, but it's not one of the main focuses of the Bond films. And then every once in a while you will have some kind of connecting tissue or something, but Spectre is one of those things like, who is this shadowy organization that's out there that's like opposing these intelligence agencies? That's what I want to know. Because like, where does Dr. No rank in Spectre, right? Like, is he one of their top lieutenants, or is he just a henchman, right?
That's another thing this movie doesn't have. Like, it is generic henchmen. It has threats, but it doesn't have like the henchmen.
Yeah.
Like it gets a while until we have like Odd Job and Jaws, and all the good ones. Wint and Kid are pretty charming, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Bautista with his metal thumbnails.
The new James Bond filmed Metal Thumb.
Metal Thumb!
James Bond in Metal Thumb.
Do you remember those Thumb movie parodies?
Oh, God, yeah.
I feel like Metal Thumb is like, okay, guys, now we're tackling Metal Gear Solid. And a Thumb parody of Metal Gear Solid sounds just utterly
Metal Thumb
nonsensical.
Solid. Yes. It's great. But yeah, so Dr. No is trying to sabotage this like rocket launch that NASA is doing, I guess trying to like remotely commandeer it or something. And he is in the middle of it happening, and Bond is escaping from captivity once he's kind of discovered that that's what they're up to, and he's having a rough time of it to get back there. He's crawling through vents. He's getting washed with, I guess, like radioactive wastewater or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? And he comes out of the vent, and his shirt is just dirty. It's torn up. He's been shocked. He's been he's having a bad day, man.
This was one of the things that let me know, no, Mr. Bond, I Expect You to Die must not be in this movie, because I do not remember James Bond wearing an outfit that dirty in that scene.
Yeah.
In that scene in Goldfinger, he's wearing, I think, just plain black kind of cat burglar attire.
Yeah.
Not his tuxedo, but this is a decent second choice.
Yeah. And so he escapes, and he ends up kind of knocking out this one dude and stealing his hazmat suit so he can kind of blend in, and he just walks in and is like, oh shit, I don't know what to do. So he just picks up some random papers and like, I'm gonna stand over here behind you and listen to what's happening and see if I can figure things out. And they're doing this countdown and be like, okay, you, it's your turn. Okay, you, it's your turn. And Jim, where's Jim?
Come on, Jim.
I'm not sure what the guy's name was, but then they're like, he's right behind us. Jim, what are you doing, Jim? Like, come on, dude, it's you. And he's like, sure, yes. And then he has to go like figure out what to go do without anyone telling him. But it results in him sabotaging it. They don't commandeer the launch. He ruins it, and it just causes chaos. Like with all the like nuclear radiation stuff that's happening in this facility, I guess they set things off, and the place is about to blow, and it's chaos. And I love this scene, like when the sirens are
these are always fun,
off, and people are running around everywhere. They're trying to escape and get on boats and stuff like that, and he's like, where's Honey? Like, she's somewhere in here, and turns out she's been locked up. But I love this scene because everything goes to shit. You see all the scientists running around in their hazmat suits. You see the like hospitality workers and the scientists, and it's just it's fun. It's a fun scene because there's so much happening.
Yeah, the Bond franchise is good at the lair is going to be destroyed panic scenes.
Yeah. It's good.
Which is another thing that's like very specific to this franchise. I haven't seen very many of that type of scene in other films. I mean, I think there's the one in like Empire Strikes Back, but I feel like that's like, the Bond franchise is where it truly lives.
Yeah. And so they finally escape. They call for help. It looks like they've been on that boat waiting for at least a day, maybe. Not too long, but long and enough, right? And then they get rescued, but then he's like, you know what? Let's not get rescued just yet.
This is wild. Like their boat, like there's him on a boat, and he like clips like a line to Bond and Honey's like little wooden rowboat, and it's like, all right, we're gonna tow you back to the mainland. And then Bond like cuts the rope. Like, do you need to bone right now? Can you bone when you get back to a hotel?
Yeah.
What's stopping you from just boning right there, Bond? I know you don't care.
Right?
It won't look. It's fine.
No one cares, right?
Right. They know that from you now, Bond.
Yeah, they kind of expect that's what you're doing in the boat anyways. I mean, what else did you have to do? It's not like you had that deck of cards there to play solitaire, right? Like, gotta do something.
Yeah.
I liked the ending because it's not it's the like, okay, we stopped things and there's a definite end to that film, but it is also that like kind of more romantic view of the ending, and then Bond gets the girl, you know.
That is how a lot of these movies end, is that like the rest of MI6 is like, okay, Bond, here we are. And Bond's like, yeah, huh? Like, you know, I'm going to turn the video screen off. I'm going to sneak away to another room in this boat on this plane. Like, he just ignores professional duties to bone down with this lady after the job is done. And the rest of them are like, well, there goes Bond again.
Yeah.
Roll credits. James Bond will return.
Oh, Bond. Yeah, good film. I thought it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, surprisingly so for a I think a nice thing, because I haven't watched very many movies of this era. Like the camera movements, like it's shot very simply and like plainly and brightly. Everything's very well lit. The camera's just centrally located. It doesn't move much. Like the camera work isn't very dynamic, but that means that it's easy to understand. Like it's just simple and watchable. Like nothing in this movie challenges you.
Yeah.
Like I was never confused or bored. And I appreciate that. It was just sort of brightly colored and nice to look at for a while.
Yeah, indeed. Speculation for Dr. No. Or from Dr. No to No Time to Die.
I will say that one of the released shooting locations for No Time to Die was Jamaica. They shot large parts of that movie in Jamaica, which helps lend to the Rami Malek is the new Dr. No theory. I'd have to go back and look at some of the trailers, but it seems like he does have a vaguely similar lair with like large water features in it. I think he may also be wearing
some because I think it was he was half Chinese in this too, and I think what we've seen of Rami Malek's lair, he has a lot of like Asian motifs in that too, but his accent is decidedly not Asian. It is this like weird odd mix. Which
you're not exactly sure what accent that is.
I would believe from someone who is maybe half Russian, half Chinese or something like that, right?
Know.
Like it's this weird mix of things. And yeah, I was starting to get the like, I can see how they would take these things from Dr. No and translate that into a much more visually interesting modern aesthetic.
Yeah, like let's reinvent some of these things. Like Dr. No has the prosthetic hands. Rami Malek is like a very scarred face. I think his character's name is Safin. I'm just going to keep, like, until I see the movie and I get that really stuck in my head. It's just Rami. It's just supervillain Rami version. Like, he's got a real scarred face, and he's wearing that, like, opera doll mask over it. I think maybe he has a Nehru collar jacket, which could lend itself to some Dr. No similarities.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've seen this movie, I will have to go back and look at the trailers and look at, like, all of the stuff that has been released about Dr. No. And, like, you know, I can draw my own conclusions instead of just parroting the conclusions I've heard other people draw.
Yeah. Indeed.
Mm.
Yeah, because so part of my speculation was erroneously based off the idea of the, like, do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. And me thinking that was in Dr. No, and then being like, no time to die. Okay, I start to see, like, vague connection. Maybe it's a reference.
There still could be some homage in there. There might be some Goldfinger in here we have yet to see.
Yeah. I mean, it might have something to do with a missile launch and stealing a bunch of money. Like, maybe one is a front or a cover for the other or something.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what's going to happen, because I actually haven't seen the more recent Daniel Craig James Bond films. I've seen the first, like, 2 at least.
Have you seen Skyfall?
I have seen Skyfall, so I guess I've seen the first 3, but after that I haven't seen Spectre. I haven't seen, what's the one after? Have they done one after that?
No, it goes this will be the 5th one. It goes Casino Royale, okay. Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre, and then No Time to Die.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
Spectre
I've seen those first 3, but it was a long time ago, and I don't really remember them all that much.
I recommend rewatching them. I think they're fun. Casino Royale's very solid. Skyfall's
I want to.
Gorgeous. Yeah. Spectre, it seems like this movie is taking a lot continued directly from Spectre. Particularly, Madeline Swan. She's an interesting character.
Mm-hmm.
She's a doctor.
Okay. But is she Dr. No?
Heck, who knows? I don't.
What if she's Dr. No?
Yeah, these trailers make it seem like she definitely has some sort of a secret. Maybe that's it, that she's been the villain this whole time. These movies could do anything to me.
Yeah. But yeah, I would kind of like to see that in more modern day Bond films. Like, we've been talking about the patterns and stuff, but the Bond films have, for the most part, just kind of moved on, like, after each story. And I think when we see a new Bond actor or, stuff like that, I do kind of like to see these reinterpretations of these stories. Like, how do you mix it in GoldenEye to this new thing? How do you mix in, From Russia with Love or stuff like that? I want to see homages or returning characters of, like, oh, Dr. No is back. And
there have been some. I mentioned Jaws earlier. He's a henchman in 2 of the Roger Moore movies who has these metal teeth. In Spectre, Dave Bautista's a henchman, and he has these, like, metal thumbnails that he'll, like, jab into your eye, and that seems Jaws-esque. In Dr. No, you see Honey Rider in her bikini, like, rise out of the ocean. Mm-hmm. That's the same shot. Theme. Right. That's that same shot you see them pull on Daniel Craig himself in Casino Royale. Yeah. They're like, this movie, we're going to start really playing into Bond being as hot as, like, any of the ladies might be. We're going to make Bond more sexualized himself. There have been other homages like that. Like, they pick up little things. People, for Spectre, people were wondering if they were going to do a soft remake of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, when it was like, Bond finds a woman he may really love and settle down with. It's like, oh, are they going to do the thing where Blofeld kills her again? Not like wanting, kill this lady so that he can restart again later in a more sexy globe-trotting adventures. It's like, that people have looked back on Her Majesty's Secret Service like, this movie was pretty good. Like, it's got this weird one-off Bond actor who's not totally doing a great job, but the script is fine, and people are like, maybe they're gonna try and do that script again, or like that same general storyline again with Craig.
Yeah.
There have been homages and things, but yeah, I would like to see them, like, it's been enough time now that it's like, we're just doing this one again. We've updated it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
it's updated.
Exactly what I want to
It's a
see.
soft
or just
remake.
Like, how can they mix 2 or 3 of them into a one brand new story? Right?
Yeah.
That type of thing. So we'll see. No Time to Die is hopefully coming out later this year, but again, we're recording this one kind of in the midst of all the COVID-19 stuff, so who knows when that will come out. But yeah, so moving on to recommendations.
Yes.
What would you recommend for people who liked this movie and something else that they can check out?
If you want to see just a really good, fun spy movie, it's a recent film, but it's set in the 1960s. It's Guy Ritchie's The Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie. I think this came out in like 2013, 2014, maybe. It is a remake of like the old 1950s, 60s TV show The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which stands for United Nations Committee for Law and Enforcement. Yeah. And it's a story of an American spy and a Russian spy who have to team up with each other. So this movie stars Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer. Alicia Vikander is the girl in it. Hugh Grant is like their M. Elizabeth Debicki is the villain. Jared Harris is in this. It's got a really great cast.
Good one, yeah.
It's so much fun. It's one of the most fun movies in this genre, I think. And it's just like glossy and classy. The music, the costumes, everything. It's a delight. I am always down to watch The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I'm so upset it didn't do well enough to make a sequel. I still hold out hope that it,
maybe one day.
Maybe Guy Ritchie like squirreled away enough money somewhere and he's like, another one, more Uncle. Uncles are back. I would also recommend a music video.
Okay.
Do you know the band Mike Snow? It's Mike spelled with 2 I's, and that might make it pronounced differently.
Not ringing a bell.
But let's just say it's Mike Snow. Well, they have a song called Genghis Khan, like the guy. Yeah. And this music video is like a Bond parody. And it's about this villain. He has like a gold nose.
Good.
It's about this villain, and he's got this like spy in a tuxedo, like tied up on the platform with the laser pointed at him, and then like a bell goes off, like, oh guys, it's 5:00, I gotta go home. And you just like see the spy go home, and you see that he's still thinking about the man on the table, and he goes back, and like the whole music video is like a love story between the supervillain and the spy.
Amazing.
And then they like dance together at the end.
That's great.
I would watch an entire series of films based on this one music video. Kyle, you have to look it up. It's amazing. It's so fun.
Good stuff.
And of course, listen to the podcasts I mentioned earlier. There's James Bond, and then there's Spectre, special podcast exclusively for comedy, talking revenge and extortion. It's my favorite podcast title. I was like friends of one of the guys who co-hosts it, so I was able to join for one episode.
That's great.
And I am talking about Roger Moore's Moonraker.
Good stuff. So my recommendations, number one, of course, would be the Mission Impossible movies.
Yes.
Those are great. Those are kind of like our version of the American James Bond, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Or spy, thriller, action stuff. But I also wanted to recommend a comic. This is S.H.I.E.L.D. by Jim Steranko.
Oh.
And it collects a number of his backups in Strange Tales from 1951 and Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. from 1968. And this is often considered like a classic run of comics. Like this is one of the ones that you need to eventually read. If we put comics and stuff on our list of shame, this would be one of the ones that I have not read, that is on my list, but I have heard so much about it. I've seen pages and panels, and it looks great. I know at one point in here, I don't know how much of it is, but I know there's at least one issue in here that is a completely silent issue, and that was a kind of a controversial thing at the time. I don't know if comics had really done silent issues before then.
Those letterers got to work.
Well, yeah, that, and I think this story is that they didn't want to pay him for that one, because it's like, well, you didn't write anything. He's like, but I came up with the story. Like I wrote the story, I just didn't write words that you can read while you do. And so yeah, but yeah, that stuff is also like really classic, like Nick Fury spy stuff. It has a lot of like pop art influences, really bright colors and things like that. So that is something to check out with that. And then I think it covers a lot of stuff, but I also think Venture Burrows would be a good thing to check out, because it does have some of the spy espionage stuff in there. It has the like shadowy villain organization, and it's just an all around good time.
And the in flashbacks, whenever you see Jonas Venture and he's wearing like the white tux with the red rose in the lapel, I think you see Hank in that outfit at like some formal function. That is straight from Bond. He wears that in, I think, From Russia with Love, the white tux with the red rose.
Yeah.
Which was an outfit they recreated for Daniel Craig on the poster for Spectre.
Indeed. So yeah, those would be my recommendations there. With that stuff. Yeah. Good, that's good. Melissa, it is my turn to do Shame-tember. Pitch some things from my list of shame. Yeah. Shame on you.
Shame.
So I have two options for you. Do you want an all sci-fi theme, or do you just want a grab bag of stuff?
Oh, interesting. Does the grab bag include any sci-fi?
No. I would say no, but again, I haven't seen these films, so no.
I don't know. Like, go with the ones you feel like you need to have seen more, which might be the sci-fi list for you.
Yeah. Sci-fi list. But yeah, let's go with the sci-fi list. I think this will be interesting. Okay.
Can I hear all of them though, just for my own knowledge?
Yes. All right. So the grab bag one. Here's what I would have pitched for the grab bag one. Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee. Spirited Away.
What?
I haven't seen Spirited Away.
Oh my god!
And Dog Day Afternoon, starring Al Pacino. I haven't seen that one.
I haven't.
That's a bank heist.
I've seen Spirited Away. Right, I haven't seen Dog Day Afternoon or Do the Right Thing. Those are solid, shameless picks. Yeah.
Indeed. So, but we will go with the sci-fi theme because I am a big sci-fi fan.
Yeah.
Let's see. The first one is Solaris, and I want to go with the original, the 1972 film.
Ooh, yeah.
This is a Soviet science fiction art film based off a novel of the same name. It was co-written and directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, I believe is how you say that name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the plot centers on a space station orbiting a fictional planet named Solaris, where a scientific mission has stalled because the skeleton crew of 3 scientists have fallen into emotional crisis. Psychologist Chris Kelvin travels to the station in order to evaluate the situation, only to encounter the same mysterious phenomena as the others. The film was Tarkovsky's attempt to bring a new emotional depth to science fiction films. He viewed most Western works in the genre as shallow due to their focus on technological invention. A lot of people say that this is a good companion film to Kubrick's 2001 Space
yes.
Odyssey. I believe one of the scientists on the station has died, and that is kind of one of the the impending thing of hey, you need to go check this stuff out. And from I know they remade the film, I think in the early 2000s, starring George Clooney. Which I have also heard it a lot of people didn't like it because they were George Clooney, this is gonna be like a sci-fi thriller with some action.
Yeah.
And it's from what I hear, both the original and that were pretty slow moving films.
Yeah, just sort of internal and brooding and ponderous. Yeah, I've heard of this.
Which a lot of sci-fi does have. Yeah, that technological invention that I guess this director was not a big fan of, but a lot of sci-fi also helps you to question a lot of things and existence and purpose, and I think that's what this film is focusing on. Just these questioning moments and these long ponderous shots of I'm not even sure if ponderous is a word, but I'm making it one. These long
ponderous steakhouse.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, just a more thoughtful sci-fi film there in Solaris, 1972.
Okay,
that's pitch number 1. Pitch number 2 is a much more recent film, Ex Machina. This is a 2014 British sci-fi psychological thriller, written and directed by Alex Garland, who worked on the screenplay for 28 Days Later, and I believe he also did Dread, which is a much
he
more...
directed Annihilation, which we watched last year, remember?
Yeah, we did that one. I know he also did Jared, which is an action film that, God, it's a adaptation of the comics, and it is so good, and no one saw that movie. It's great. That film.
It's got Carl Urban in it, right?
Yeah, it does.
He's got to be at least worth the price of admission.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is, let's see the plot. Programmer Caleb Smith works for the dominant search engine company Blue Book, and he wins an office contest for a 1-week visit to the luxurious, isolated home of the CEO, Nathan Bateman. Nathan lives in a beautiful modern home next to a waterfall and climbing hills, and is alone apart from a servant named Yoko, who, according to Nathan, does not speak English. After an awkward introduction, Nathan reveals to Caleb that he has built a female humanoid robot named Ava with artificial intelligence. After asking Caleb if he is familiar with the Turing test, Nathan tells Caleb that he wants him to judge whether Ava is genuinely capable of thought and consciousness despite knowing she is artificial. Furthermore, the test will be passed if Caleb forgets that Ava is human during their daily sessions. So I've heard nothing but good things about this.
Yeah,
this
I've
film.
seen this one.
I don't know anything else besides that though. It is distributed by A24, and I've seen a number of their films, and they've always been fantastic, despite what genre they might be in. They've always been good films, but in terms of like movies about artificial intelligence, this one is up there. Just in sci-fi list of like great sci-fi movies, this one is always up there. So Ex Machina is pitch number 2 on that one. Pitch number 3, have to go with a little bit more of a classic. The Fifth Element. I haven't seen this one. This is a 1997 English language French science fiction action film directed and co-written by Luc Besson. It stars Bruce Willis, Gary Oldman, and Mila Jovovich. And it's primarily set in the 23rd century. The film's central plot involves the survival of planet Earth, which becomes the responsibility of Corbin Dallas, a taxi cab driver and former special forces major, after a young woman falls into his cab. To accomplish this, they join forces and have to recover 4 mystical stones, essential for the defense of Earth against impending attack. So, there you go. Pitch number 3.
Kyle, I'm going to tell you, these are all great pitches, truly. I don't know if you need to see any of these as much as you need to see Spirited Away.
It's on my list. It's on my list.
Okay, I'm just saying that out of the 6 films you've listed for me, I think that is the most important one.
There are a number of Miyazaki films that I actually haven't seen, and most of the time I'm just like, oh yeah, that one. I know that one. Good film, I'm sure. I guess to mention them then on my list, because I have a list. I made a list of 40 films that are on my list of shame, and the ones from Studio Ghibli are Spirited Away, Kiki's Delivery Service, and My Neighbor Totoro. I haven't seen those ones.
Those are like the 3 most important ones, Kyle.
Right? But I've seen like Howl's Moving Castle. I've seen
Howl might be like 4th, yeah.
I've
Mononoke, definitely,
seen
yeah.
that one. Though because Paul and I covered that one on the review show, and I hadn't seen that one until we watched it on the review show, or on the Whatnauts podcast. So that was one that used to be on my list of shame, but go.
Baby steps.
We'll get there one day.
Oof.
So of these 3 sci-fi films, Melissa, what one should we watch? Solaris, Ex Machina, or The Fifth Element?
So I have seen Ex Machina, and this movie stars Domhnall Gleeson and Oscar Isaac before they were in the Star Wars movies together. And I saw it before I saw those, and I've thought about going back to like see those actors again, because when I saw Star Wars, like I did not recognize them at all from having seen them just like months earlier in this film. Oscar Isaac is a big beard, and that made a difference to me. Like I could only concentrate on the beard. I didn't recognize his face. So I've thought about watching that. I know Solaris is very important, but the thing is that those movies are both real dreary, and I don't know if I'm in the mood for a dreary movie. A grim, slow, ponderous, human existentialist movie.
Ponderous,
As much
good
as I'm
word.
in the mood for like Chris Tucker wearing a loud costume and yelling, so I want to watch The Fifth
Let's
Element.
do it. That's a good one. That's been on my list for a long time.
I've seen it before. It's one of James's favorite movies, so I've seen it before, but it's been several years, and I think like I don't remember it as well as I feel like I should. I would like to see it one more time, and it's such a dazzling film. This is the guy who did Valerian, which we've talked about before on the show. And that movie, visually stunning.
I was about to mention.
same.
It's funny that you mentioned Jams, your brother, who we had him on the show to cover the movie Valerian and City of a Thousand Planets or something like that. I don't remember the full title. I always get it mixed up. So I got it right. Good. Okay. But the Fifth Element is an original story from Luc Besson, but it is heavily influenced by the comics, that the Valerian comics, all of that stuff. Also by the artwork of Mobius, and all of that stuff. All of the costume design was Jean-Paul Gaultier. So it's sci-fi in its most like extravagant forms, and good stuff. So if you guys want to
I feel like this is a
I was just about to say, if you did want to go check out Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, we do have a podcast on that one. So, let me look up what number that one is.
Yeah, that was over 2 years ago. It was one of our early ones. I think Jams was our first guest that we had on together.
So,
I will say that for being a movie that's like 25 years old, I think The Fifth Element is still referenced a lot. Ex Machina has come out in like the last handful of years. I think that might have been like a 2014, 15 release.
Is what it said. 13.
2014. Okay.
You were right.
My memory of Ex Machina is that it came out on DVD and home video the same day as Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. So we watched both of those in one double feature.
Wow, what a double feature.
I watched Ex Machina, and then I immediately watched Paul Blart Mall Cop 2.
Wow.
Having not seen Paul Blart Mall Cop the first.
Wow, wild.
It's one of my best cinema enjoying nights of my life. What a wild ride. The Fifth Element, I think, is a movie that is still referenced.
A lot, yeah.
You will see cosplays from it. You will see like new collectibles from it. People still love it. This is in more of the cultural conversation than I think the other movies are.
For sure.
So even if the other ones are like serious homework picks, this one is it's good for your everyday
mainstream
pop culture lexicon. Yeah.
Episode 13 is the one that we covered Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. So
oh my god, that was 110 episodes ago.
Yeah. Wow.
God, we've been doing this for so long.
Good stuff. Yeah, so that's what we will do this next week. We will do the Fifth Element. Let me look at the calendar here. When is that stuff? So Fifth Element there. And then after that is when we are going to be doing our first thing of Irredeemable. Or is that no, that's not.
Yeah, no, we're going to do Fifth Element, then Irredeemable,
okay, yeah.
And then we start October.
Yeah,
the spooky month.
So I will mention this. I was confused on the name of Irredeemable because there is a spin-off series in that called Incorruptible. It's not, you don't need to read that one to understand the story or stuff like that. It's just a completely like, if you liked the story of Irredeemable, here's that story from a different perspective. So yeah, I'm excited. The Fifth Element. crossing that one off my list. Good stuff. That's what we'll do next week.
Yeah.
So, Melissa, where can the people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT.
You can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. You guys want to stay up to date with our shows, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. Go like, share, subscribe. Go subscribe to us on YouTube, please. We are at, I believe, 86 subscribers right now. So we are inching ever closer to 100. And I will not shut up about it until we reach 100.
You can see us. I wore like a tropical shirt today to celebrate the setting of Jamaica.
Yeah, and Melissa can't see, but I guess you guys can see that I have a shirt with a robot. I'm a big fan of sci-fi stuff, like we just mentioned. So there you go. Yeah. That's about it, though. That wraps us up for this one. This has been episode 123 of the Whatnauts review show. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed that one as usual. Well, I mean, hopefully you usually enjoy them. I guess I don't really know. But leave a comment down below what your favorite James Bond film is. That would be pretty cool to know. And in the meantime, go subscribe to our channel up here. Go watch one of these videos down here because we got plenty of podcasts for you to check out. But until next time, bye.